Welcome to another episode of Dawg Bear Down with Turban Brothers. I am Binny with your co-host, Yogi Rana. Hey, Yogi, how you feeling after two back-to-back losses with Browns? I know must be feeling sick, but hey, tell me your current state.
Yeah, I think like most Browns fans, I'm definitely infuriated at how we're handling the offense. It's been surprising to see how poorly the special teams has played too. But the offense, I mean, that's what we knew coming in was a problem. 6 quarterbacks as a plan is not a plan. And right now, coming off of watching these Monday night games, I sort of think about the conversation that we had about Miles. And I remember saying, like, as a Browns fan, I want Miles to say, but as somebody that lived through the LeBron era before he came back and won a championship, I think, his legacy is harmed by staying in Cleveland. And I think we see that playing out. I mean, he's got over 4 sacks in 2 games. I don't see that being a result of, our first round pick from this year. His stats don't really show that he's showing out. I think he's doing just fine, especially for a rookie. But I say that to make a point of it's not like they improved the defense so much and then that's what led to, Miles being Miles. Miles was this before, and then Miles got paid and everyone said, that's all he was really looking for. He wasn't really looking for a Super Bowl. But I can tell you, I think Miles will ask for a trade next year because this team just isn't good enough. So all of my frustration is on that side and watching CJ Stroud and Houston in the, with Chubb in that backfield, our former running back. And then we basically just watch game after game. So we watch Baker on the other side of that, balling out. Continuing his streak of great games. It's clear this is an organizational problem, right? It is an issue with the Cleveland Browns. It is not something that can be fixed with just one player. So even if we put Shedeur in, I think that's a bad move for him. I'm not even saying it's a bad move for the Browns. It might improve the Browns, but it'll hurt him in his career. So overall, I think where I'm at right now is I'm frustrated with the fact that we didn't make the changes we needed to make in the offseason with coaching, with the GM, with the staff, with the scouting. I feel like we failed on all fronts to make the changes we needed to make. And then they expected different results, right? So by definition, that's madness to just do the same thing and expect some different outcome. And I mean, this is probably going to be my most frustrated podcast we've done because coming off another loss this was an embarrassing loss. Like this wasn't even the first game. I was like, okay, we have those issues with Cincy and we always go back and forth. The frustrating thing in the first game was just that our defense played so well. You couldn't put that on the defense.
Yeah.
But here's what happens. Everyone blames the defense when they start giving up points. And then everyone blames Miles for running out of gas at the end of the year. Well, what if that's a result of the fact that the offense sucks, keeps giving the ball back over, the defense fatigues, Miles gets more hurt and doesn't slow his effort down? What if it's all a result of that? Like, what if all that blame about the 40-plus points and all that blame that we're here year in, year out about Miles running out of gas down the stretch really isn't the defense's fault? It's really not Jim Schwartz's fault. It's really not Miles' fault. Because honestly, as somebody that no longer lives in Cleveland, that's what I see. I see the organization as a problem. I don't see Miles as a problem. I don't see Jim Schwartz in that defense. I mean, there are things I'd want to improve, but I don't see that as the issue. I think they will become the scapegoat again as a part of all of this because they'll get tired. They'll give up a ton of points like we just did against Baltimore. But that first half, we didn't give up anything.
Mm-hmm.
But what did the special teams do? Give up points. What did the offense do? Give up points. That's demoralizing as a defense. Like you're actually like letting up under 100 yards over and over again. I think there was a stretch between the end of the Bengals game and the first half of the Baltimore game where it was less than 50 yards gained, I believe, by the offense. Yep. Eventually, you're like, man, even though I'm doing my job completely, you guys suck.
Yep.
And that's what I'm seeing. So I think frustration is an all-time high. What do you think? How are you feeling on your side of it?
Sick to my stomach, but still at the same time, I expected this. We all expected this. Actually, to be honest, like at the beginning of the season, I was hopeful. A Cincinnati game was relatively good, not going to lie. We were moving the ball up and down. Again, when Cincinnati first started, they came off with the run plays. We made adjustment. Like, we stopped them at one point, right? We saw offense moving fluently. Like, Joe Flacco made the plays he should. 2 picks were not on him, right? Everything looked good. Again, it comes back to same. Jeudy, our playmakers, could not catch a ball to save their lives. Our special teams, which has been an issue for like 5 years. I don't know how Baba still has a job. Like, he must be really friendly with the owner. But besides that, the special team has been this, like, that's literally bad. Again, our offense was doing good. Our defense was holding their end. Miles was a single man wrecking machine. Mason Graham was doing what he was doing. Isaiah on the edge was doing really well, which is a surprise. Were doing what they were supposed to doing. Bush was good even. Schwarzinger was good as well. So defense looked solid. And I don't know what happened to our playmakers. Again, Jeudy leading the league last year. I think that will be a point of emphasis. Like, you give certain things to each player at the end of the season. This is what you need to work on. That should have been point of emphasis with him. Hey, you were leading the league in dropping the catches or dropping the ball. You should be working on that. And then coming out of flat and dropping the ball in key situations is unacceptable. Like, I was livid. I don't know why our coach wasn't livid. It annoys me because he never shows passion, Kevin Stefanski. But again, that annoys me a lot, that him dropping the ball after leading the league last year and still where he left off, right? Again, he made some good catches. I'm not going to deny that, but again, those are unacceptable. And even if now I think if they needed to play the whole preseason, they should have, because there's nothing to lose. You are not where you should be. And it's game 1. And then after that debacle by the kicker and we losing the game where we only let 7 yards in the second half, I was like, all right, there's a silver lining. Our offense is looking decent, our defense. And then we go to Ravens, who are planning on doing the 30-year anniversary of stealing our team, or Browns, moving to Baltimore. It's kind of a pun intended that we're not only going to do this, but kick your ass while doing it. And that's a bulletin board material for any coach, regardless who you are, regardless you have been here or not. You need to go out there and show passion for the city you're playing for. Like, especially our offense. Defense has been lights out. I was looking at the stats till now, first 2 games. We are third in passing and 5th in run, one or the other. Maybe it's backwards, but we're up there. They're playing elite defense, top 5 defense, just like 2023. They just need average offense. But when you look at the offense, it's stagnant. It looks like a Deshaun Watson offense. We cannot move the ball. It looks confusing. Nobody's open. Tight window throws. And if it's not on the mark, it's a pick. So many times initially, I felt like Joe Flacco didn't want to throw the ball because he didn't see anyone open. Then he realized if he doesn't throw the ball, they're not going anywhere, so might as well take chances. And when you start taking chances, it was interceptions. And our line looks old. I don't know what's going on with our line. Our left tackle got manhandled, like 10 tackles for the edge rusher from Ravens. I forgot his name. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's, what's his name again? Never mind. He had a heck of a day, and he's like older edge rusher. So,
Talking about Roquan Smith?
Roquan Smith.
Yep.
It was just crazy to see him get to the quarterback that easily. And Joe Flacco, you need to protect him because he's not mobile. He has to, stay in the pocket, make those short, quick reads. And if you don't have time and if no one's open, you're bringing more 2 tight ends set to block, running backs to block, and you have nobody. You have 3 on 5 covering the wide receivers. You have nowhere to go. So that was my biggest concern with our offense. It looks just like last year with Deshaun Watson. And then on top of that, again, a lot of drop catches, ball hitting right in the stomach, a drive killer. Like, it takes so much confidence, fluidity out of the offense when you start dropping the ball. There's no excuse for that. Again, this is an ongoing issue. I don't know. Somebody needs to look into it, make a point of emphasis going forward. But again, offense looked bad. Defense looked amazing. 10-3 going into half when your offenses can't even move the ball. You can ask for more from them. This is absurd. And telling Henry before the game that you cannot run on us, giving him bulletin board material, still shutting him down, that's walking your talk in a way. And then on top of it, offense again being stagnant. Again, I don't understand what's happening. Is it the complicated offense? Is it the offensive line? It's all of the above. It's a receiver not getting open. I just don't understand because this same offense 2 years ago with Flacco was really fluid. Now it seems like they can't move the ball. I don't understand what's happening. Maybe Judkins would help because, again, Judkins looked amazing. His stiff arm to Humphrey was beauty, sight to see. Just it's reminding me of Nick Chubb taking down a Pittsburgh Steeler with stiff arm, and it was amazing. But again, they kept it on pitch count, 10 attempts for 61 yards. Not too bad. Most of the yards came on one 31-yard run, but he looked good. He looked solid. I think he's a great pick. And a lot of other guys stepped up too. I think it's our offensive line, which is not doing, and our receivers can get open. Maybe at this point, you just run two tight end set all the time and go through them. But anyways, defense did well. Now, if we shift gears toward defense looked really good, right? And again, they kept holding their end to a point where the dam was about to break. And they did it to an extent where after that, again, 10-3 going into the half, then special team blunders back to back, giving them extra points, led a 40-yard kick return. Right? Can't fumble the ball, can't do any of that, can't have a blocked punt. Blocked punt. So that killed the game in a way because you put your defense in a short field where they cannot recover. Again, they're gassed, they're trying to do their best. They're playing like elite defense, but you can only ask so much from them. But again, as you alluded to, it all comes down to playing complementary football. You don't even have to play A, B football. You have to play C. If you play C plus football, you get a win on both games, on us. But it seems like right now they're playing D or F, D minus or F football on offense. And that's not going to get you anywhere. And again, as you alluded to last night, watching Tampa Bay Houston game, it seems like we were watching what we could have been with Chubb and Baker Mayfield. That's us. That's our players. Again, blunders made by our front office, trades which has handcuffed us thus far, and Deshaun Watson contract being albatross. And again, it seems like that should have been our team, which is on the field. But again, it is what it is at this point. You get frustrated, you get pissed off. And on top of that, your coach, like, it's on me. I am getting tired of that. Like, yes, we all know it's on you. There's nobody. The buck stops with you because what are you going to do about it, right? Hold somebody accountable. Bench someone. You're lose with them or without them. Big deal. You don't have Jeudy for a game. Make this a teaching moment for them. You can't just show up and play. You can't talk and not walk the talk. But that's what I see in our coaching staff. It's soft. It's not passionate enough, like, to make a statement. I know when Dan Campbell came in, a couple of his guys in his first introduction, kind of giggled, laughed at him, and weren't paying attention. And they were good players. He shipped them to just set the precedence, right? I am not going to take any nonsense. I want all in, or if you're not all in, you can walk out. That's something I don't see accountability. Yes, he's taking accountability on himself, but he's not holding the team accountable. It's like a teacher being accountable for their students' grades, but not holding the students accountable for that. That's the part which is frustrating, where players don't care, it seems like, to an extent. Besides few players on defense, Miles, who have had their share of, failures with us, and they want to win because they're at that stage of their life or career that they want to go to a Super Bowl. They want to be in playoffs. They want media attention on them because they have achieved everything from stats point of view. Now it's a bigger picture for them. Those are the players who care, but the rest of them seem like they're just there collecting checks and just showing up to show up. And that's where I'm frustrated with our coaching staff. Why not make a statement with anyone? Pick anyone. It doesn't even matter who it is at this point. Just make a statement that you're here to play for the team, for the city, with passion. That's what frustrates me. And every time I see it's on me, it just boils my blood. It's like, okay, come on. We have heard this for 3 years. You're holding yourself accountable, but you're not holding your team accountable. It's all about the team. And recently, I was watching this cowboy documentary. I saw how Jimmy Johnson was passionate about winning. That's what it is. That's all about it. You're not here to collect checks. You're here to win. And that's what frustrates me. Trust me, I was optimistic. I saw a silver lining in Bengals game. But when I look at Ravens now, it was a blowout. I don't even feel bad. I feel frustrated in a funny way that, I'm frustrated, but I'm not mad. I'm like, what else I expected? They don't care. So that's what I feel about them at this moment in time. Maybe this will change. Maybe they will come out swinging, which I doubt because their next 4 games are against Packers, Lions, Ravens,
It's tough.
Steelers. I
Yeah.
can see them going 0-6, but hey, you got to turn the corner at some point, and might as well be against Lions, but you got to start somewhere. But it all starts with accountability. And if they do that, I think there is enough talent on this team to win. That frustrates me. Like I can understand 0-16, 1-18 team. There was no talent. This team has talent. You have top 5 defense, and you have offensive players who can actually make. You just have to play complementary football. See on offense, and you will win a game. So that's where I'm at.
I agree.
Frustrated.
I agree with all of it. All right. So us both having the frustrations that we have, I want to go back to how this Baltimore game went and our conversations during the game, because that highlighted to me the fact that we are both coming at this from different directions when it comes to who to blame. And I'm going to lead it off by saying I started to come around to your side more on the blame as a result of this Baltimore game. But I'd like to talk about how all of that progressed as we were talking about it, and then who we ultimately think is to blame at this point. Because we can start to solve, but we tried to solve before. What we really need to do is get a general consensus around what is really wrong beyond the factory of sadness stuff, beyond the curses, beyond the, all the Browns being the Browns. What are the common components of the Browns being trash again this year? Because we know it's not the defense. We know it's not Myles Garrett.
Yep.
That's what we agree on. It's not
Yep.
that. So you mentioned Jeudy and his drops. And when I looked at it, I thought of something. The last time we had this discussion, which was last year, I said that, well, usually some of the best receivers in the league have the most drops. And my justification was, if you look at it a few years ago, Justin Jefferson had the most drops in the NFL. He also had the most targets. He also had the most yards. He also had a damn near MVP type of season as a receiver. But where it changed for me, when I looked at the drops this year, again, these are some decent receivers at the top. CD is definitely a top tier receiver. I think everyone would agree on that.
Yep.
But you also see some receivers that you would say, well, that's not a top tier person. So I'll start with, to this point, I haven't agreed that Jeudy should even be mentioned as a problem. But I want to throw it to you and say, talk to me about Jeudy, Kevin Stefanski. Like, who's really to blame for the situation that we're in?
So, first of all, if I want to put the blame game on, besides the mutual one is offensive line, Kevin Stefanski will be first and then Jeudy second. But let me start with Jeudy. Like, his play has been good. He has taken some really, really good catches, especially leaping, and, running great routes. But in the first game, if you take a look at it, again, I am looking as objectively as an overview of the whole season, like not just one game, which is Baltimore. I'm taking a look at both 2 games altogether. If you just win the first game, you are 1-1. We all feel better, right? But the first game of the season, I understand you're just getting into the rhythm of the season. There's some jitters or whatever you want to call it. Again, you're a season pro. You shouldn't have those. You drop the ball at the most crucial time, like 4th and 5. It hits you in the stomach. You're getting paid a number 1 receiver. You could be number 2.
About the number of drops. It really is
It's about
you're dropping it at the worst.
If there was a catch, which was here and there, low to the ground, I can understand that. Those are not my concerns because everybody drops one here or there. But you're getting hit right in the stomach on 4th and 5th, and you have a chance to win the game or seal the game in a way. And you're getting paid number 1. Getting paid number 1, it comes with responsibility. It's the playmakers. When Justin Jefferson, the game is on the line, you're 90%, 99% sure he's going to catch the ball, wherever it will be. And I remember a few years ago, I forgot who was it against Atlanta or I can't remember. Kirk Cousins just threw the ball up in the air. It was 4th down play, and they had 4th and 13. The guy goes up, catches one catch.
Was that the Saints game?
Saints, yeah, it could be the
Yeah,
Saints.
I think the corner came up and then
Exactly.
and
And
then
it was
just
double
climbed and took
cover.
off.
It was
Yeah.
double cover. It was a
Yep.
Hail Mary in a way, and he catches it. That's what number one receivers are supposed to be. I don't mind dropping the ball here or there. I see a pattern right now, and that's why I'm bringing it up, right? Because I see it last year. Now I'm seeing it with the first two games. It has been consistently happening. So I'm like, okay, you need to work upon it. It's not like 2 or 3 games I've seen it, and we can always ignore those stats. But right now I'm seeing is when the game is online, you have to make those catches as number one. If you want to earn your checks, that's what you're getting paid for. Even Tillman catches X amount of passes per game. Like there are a lot of, I say a Bond will start, but no, they're number 2, 3, maybe they're number 4, 5. But when the game is online and you're expected to make a play as a number one, but you're getting paid, you have to come up. Other places, yeah, you drop the ball. Now I'm just seeing a pattern. That's why I'm exaggerating a little bit more that, yeah, he's an issue. But my biggest issue is when the game is on the line, you have to come through. And it didn't happen one time. It happened multiple times the first game. And even last game's okay. It is a big game playing a division rival. You just went 0-1. You owned up to it. And you come out and you drop more balls. What's the point of owning up? That's what I don't get, the accountability part. You just said, yeah, it won't happen again. And you're talking trash to Ravens team players.
Yep.
And then you come back and have a letdown. So that is another part which I can't understand, can't wrap my head around. These athletes getting paid so much money. Maybe they don't care, the passion. But that leads into my second part, is accountability by the coach. What are you doing to the team? How are you bringing them together? How are you firing them up for the game? How are you holding them accountable not to have those drops again? Are you seeing them work the jug machine X amount of time? Go like, hey, sorry, it is what it is. Yeah, we're paying you number one. We're not delivering. You have to go hit the jug machine. Wide receiver coach, take it. I don't know how else to put it, because enough is enough. Your job is on the line. 10 other people's job. Many people's careers are on the line just because you are making decisions. You have to hold people accountable. You have to make sure you put your players in the right place to perform, in the right position to win. So that's where my frustration comes with Jeudy, and that bleeds into Stefanski. Is like, yeah, he's not doing his part. Is anyone even cushioning it? Or are they saying, yeah, it's all right. Next game you'll get better. That's not what I see from great coaches. I remember Randy Moss went to Patriots and they treated him like just an extra guy on the team. They didn't even care that he was an all-star, all-pro, Hall of Fame player on their team. They were just like, okay, you have to follow the rules. You have to do what everybody else does. That's what Belichick motto is. Whatever you practice on the field, that's going to that's going to transition into the game. That's what's going to translate into the game. If you take plays off, I'm not saying he's taking plays off. I don't know those, but I'm saying there are habits you create in the practice which makes you better. I'm sure Hines Ward and all these legendary players practice their tail off and they held themselves accountable. Again, I'm not questioning his work ethic again, but I want to know, why isn't he improving? What is the roadblock? Is it the coaching? Is it mental? Is it him? Is it practice? Is not getting pushed hard enough? Is it just getting paid number one? Is it just thinking it's Browns? No one cares. Why should I? So those are my points when I look at the game and I'm seeing the game from, outside as a fan. I feel I'm like, there's no passion, there's no fire, there's no accountability. How are you going to right the ship if you don't have that? That has been my two people I can, blame for our slow start.
Absolutely. I want to speak to what you were just talking about, but at a different level. And that is the folks that I've been blaming, basically since last year, right? The first person is Andrew Berry. When I looked at the drop stats, I also then went back and said, okay, how many, targets, how many receptions, what percentage of those targets are drops, things like that. And I think ultimately what I came down to was Jerry is definitely in a regression state again. Like he's back to the problems he had in Denver. Jerry isn't the only one that's a problem though. Cedric, you've heard me rail on how bad I think he is. I don't think he's even a number 3. He's a number 4 receiver. on any other team in the NFL. And we've seen this happen before, where the Browns will draft somebody, keep them on the roster, keep playing them, and then they don't even get a chance to play on another team.
Yep.
And Andrew Berry, in particular, I've talked about players that he's done that with, where he just constantly, David Bell, we had that Anthony Schwartz character. These guys that he just keeps around, and he does not learn his lesson. And here's the tough part. If I come back to the coaching, I actually think that's another place where he's not learning lessons. Stefanski's not learning what he needs to learn in Cleveland. Stefanski and Berry both are in these roles for the first time. Stefanski's a first-time head coach. Berry's a first-time GM. Stefanski was a coordinator before. Yes, Berry was an assistant, but that's not the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then look at the rest of this roster. So in Njoku, you mentioned, like, why is it not working the way it used to work with Flacco? And Njoku is now splitting targets with Fannin. Now, Njoku was not Andrew Berry's draft pick. That was a Dorsey pick. And Njoku has a history of drops, so I just want to call that out. But guess what we did? We drafted another guy that has drops now. And then I started to think about the other common denominator pieces. Quarterback, we've never been able to figure out. Biggest trade mistake in the history of the NFL belongs to Andrew Berry.
Mm-hmm.
Because between the amount of capital he traded and the amount that he invested in guaranteed money to Deshaun Watson, there's no close second even. Worst move a GM has made in the history of the NFL belongs to this guy. But let me go even further than that. If you remember, before we had Jeudy, we had Amari Cooper. Amari was actually a really good trade for the draft capital we gave up, but Amari had a ton of drops too.
Mm-hmm.
He really did. And once he left here, guess what? He disappeared. He went to Buffalo. He had that one game where he had the catch and then the pitch to Allen. But I don't remember anything else about his career at this point.
Yep.
And he got re-signed this year to Vegas, I think just to retire.
Yep.
So we have a history now of mistakes. And to your point about accountability, I appreciate how much the Haslams have put into the Browns. And I appreciate the fact that they want to bring some stability to the Cleveland Browns. But at this stage, we really need some accountability. So I'm going to transition into something that, like, we originally said, like, hey, we're not going to try to be that type of podcast where we're calling for people's jobs and things like that. But I do want to ask, if I'm sitting here now saying, hey, you know what? You're right. You're right. Fancy doesn't hold players accountable. I don't think he's going to hold them accountable with the Cleveland Browns. I think once he gets fired, goes and gets a second head coaching job, maybe he has to take a coordinator job in between before he earns it. Yeah, then maybe he'll figure it out. But that's a maybe, and that's not here at Cleveland. And I'm saying, I agree with you. Jeudy, he is who we thought he was. He has high ceiling and then a really low floor. By the way, we also had Odell Beckham Jr. here, and if you remember, he was dropping fourth down passes, fumbling kick returns, completely destroying momentum in games in Cleveland.
Yep.
He could act like it was because of Cleveland, but when he left, he had a couple of good games, and then he's also disappeared from the NFL.
Yep.
So I'll give him his games, because when you have a high ceiling, that'll happen. This comes back to you and I sort of having separate parties to blame, but now we have a collective group that all deserve blame.
Yep.
So I'm going to ask the question, with what's coming up in our schedule, you mentioned it earlier. If the Browns don't win, let's say they go 1-5 or 0-6, should we be keeping this GM and this coach?
Thing is, we are married to him. So the reason, because they have got the owner in confidence that, hey, we're going to draft, this is our plan. We are not going to win some games at the beginning. We're going to get these rookies in and develop them. And I think the owner has bought into it. So I think even if you go 0-6, they'll make Flacco the scapegoat, bring Gabriel. And if Gabriel sucks and doesn't have a great game or two and is average or mediocre at best, they're going to bring in maybe Watson before they play Shedeur. Because apparently the news I'm getting from social media and Brown social media, especially the beat writers, that they don't want to play Jeudy this year at all. So I won't be surprised if Watson comes in and plays at a certain point just to up his trade value and see if they can find someone for him, just to recover a 5th-round pick or maybe a 6th-round pick for him and, cut him loose. But again, I personally think the best time to fire them was last year when you had variable in-house, a coach who can plug and play, right? Who knows the team, who knows a lot more about this franchise, who's a hometown guy as well, Ohio State, right? And pretty well familiar what our deficiencies are. He's been with the team. He could easily come in and, do well with the draft. But now, who is the replacement? That's the biggest fear I have. Like, who's going to come in and either be good or great in terms of coaching, or even average in terms of coaching and being GM? I don't see anybody right now. Maybe as the season progresses, there could be multiple candidates. Last year was Ben Johnson, but again, now he's not with a new team. I personally don't. Kubiak is another person I would like to have as a coach next year, but again, too raw yet. Maybe he needs a few more years to develop. Otherwise, he'll be pulling another Stefanski, bringing him in and making him learn on the job, which is tough on young coaches. And that's what many times, when I look at Stefanski, I see him as Matt Nagy kind of coach. In his stint with Chicago Bears, he went 34-31, winning record. He was coach of the year. But when I saw him coaching, he lost the team because there was no passion for the game where he can motivate players. And he lost the locker room real fast. So those are the things I can see. He was a coach of the year again. That trophy means nothing to me. It's just a surprise team of the year, and the coach gets the reward. That's all it is. Otherwise, Belichick would have won it every year. So when I see that, I see a similar build of a coach we have who's learning. But the problem is, as you alluded to earlier, they're too stubborn. They're too young to know better. They're too stubborn because they think whatever they're doing is right. So when you have the stubbornness in you and you haven't proven anything, that's a recipe for disaster. You usually learn. You're like, okay, I made a mistake last time. Now I can fix it. Not letting go the players who you drafted is one. Not learning how to play with your receivers and motivate your teams, that's another. I'm talking about Stefanski there. Not being able to motivate the team. You got to find a way. You got to, I was listening to Nick Saban the other day, and he mentioned that at one point his team was so good and complacent, he needed a bulletin board material. And ex-university just mentioned that we will see him next week. And he used that small phrase in such a way that he was able to get to his players because he thought they were getting complacent. So that's what coaching is. It's not always X's and O's. It's also being able to, you look at Dan Campbell. Again, I keep referring it to him because he looks like a leader of men. Many times people make fun of him for what he said at the beginning, but he was passionate about. Passion many times in NFL translates into victory. X's and O's are one thing, but passion is other. If you don't have a purpose or reason to play for, no matter what kind of play you design, if you don't care, you don't care. You'll give half-ass effort. And that's what I feel. If we go 0-6, even 1-5, they're just going to change. They're going to play QB carousel. Just keep putting new quarterbacks till the end of the year. And my biggest fear is they getting another, if this year is a disaster and them getting another chance, they haven't been able to evaluate wide receiver, offensive lineman, kicker, and you're putting the onus on them to evaluate another quarterback in first round next year. Just let that sink in. And there are no great quarterbacks coming out. So it's a muddied water. It's not like clear-cut Mahomes or Andrew Luck or Joe Burrow, I meant to say, who are absolute number one pick. Peyton Manning, number one pick. You know what? You draft him no matter how good your GM is or bad your GM is.
At least right now.
Right now, I don't see a clear cut. So you're asking your GM, who is really bad at evaluating wide receiver, kicker, lineman, to evaluate QB. And now you think about it, you had a number one pick in the past with Baker Mayfield. And you couldn't even evaluate how good he was till he's gone. They were claiming that he's not clutch. He had 14 game-winning drives so far. Sometimes you got to let people mature. If you see the talent. If you don't see the talent, then I get it. But that's where evaluators are. They see the talent. And that what concerns me is them going into the next year having the cachet to do that, but not being good at it. That scares me. And even if you look at, again, I'm going to go back to Baker Mayfield, there were a lot of balls were dropped. Many people, like if you look at the roster makeup during when he was there, you alluded to it a few minutes ago that Odell Beckham Jr., he was pretty much practically playing Odell Beckham Jr. and his dad, Landry, who was past his prime, and Hollywood Higgins, and Njoku with drops.
Yep.
That
Njoku
was
was worst.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was his offense. A bunch of past their prime players. That's it. And now you see when the offense is built around him with Emeka, with Evans, with Godwin.
Yep.
He has weapons. He can deliver.
And there was a drop in that game, but they still won.
Yeah.
Because and I look at that and I think back again to our conversations about all these players. I go back to Greg Little, who used to play for the Cleveland Browns, and I used to get so angry that I was angry at the media at the time. I was like, why is the media not asking the coach? Like, how many drops does one receiver have to have before you bench him?
Yep.
Right? And they refused to bench that guy. And he just kept playing. And then he left the Browns, fell off the planet because he was just not a good receiver. I'm going to show this. And the reason I'm going to show it is because the last time we talked about this, my example was this. I said, hey, I know what you're saying, but there have been some legit coaches of the year that have won Super Bowls. But when you were talking just now, I thought about it and I was like, I don't feel the way I did before. Let me look something else up. So I asked, if there's 11 that have won the Super Bowl and been the coach of the year, how many have there been total? And so there's 68 winners, essentially, of coach of the year, and only 16% of them have won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So I will even go and say, I think more and more what you've called out about Stefanski is true. That ultimately, that coach of the year award means nothing. The fact that he's won it twice means nothing. It doesn't prove anything. I do think he'll have a successful career, probably as a coordinator and not as a head coach, but maybe even as a head coach, but it just won't be here.
Mm-hmm.
So I pose that question to you, and the only thing I'll really adapt from what you said was I wanted us to fire Andrew Berry in the summer, before the summer, actually, basically at the start of the offseason, so that in turn, we could see if Kevin Stefanski really was a problem or not.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't do that. And now I'm going to say, there's no way they find a way to ultimately salvage this season. Just forget playoffs. This team is not even a 500 team. This team is in danger of being a 2-win team.
Mm-hmm.
So I would, at 0-6 or 1-5, I would fire them. I'd fire them both.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, I'm not in the Stefanski camp. I'm still not in the Berry camp. If anything, I'm more against Berry.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say it might be good for them. Chris Carter had to leave Philadelphia because he didn't have his stuff straight. And he said it himself. But when he moved on, he had a wonderful career in Minnesota. Baker, I don't put it on Baker, but now I'm hoping Baker has an incredible career. Right? And he could have been the guy for us. He definitely matched the city, to your point. There was never any debate on that. Whether his personality matched our city, there was never a debate. The only debate ever really was, like, is he going to be able to, get over the hump? Is he really going to be able to get the wins? Is he going to win us playoff games? And now that we've seen the rest of this, we actually know the answer, which is he could have done that. He could have done that in Cleveland. So I would say it's not time to talk about next year, but it is time to talk about how we change this year. And I don't even mind going out on a limb and saying I wouldn't even let it get to 0-4. When we lose next week to the Green Bay Packers with Micah Parsons on that defense and Jordan Love just scorching our defense, not because they're not good, because they're going to get tired again. And now they're 2 games tired and 2 losses tired. I think you fire them both. And I would even say, like, as far as candidates are concerned, it's an interesting thing that you pointed out, the fact that we may not see Shedeur play at all. Because I don't think that's a conspiracy theory. I think we'll see Gabriel, probably this game, once we get down enough points. We may see Watson later on in the season. I would consider firing both of them and looking at the college ranks. And Yeah, I know it would probably concern a lot of people if Dion was one of those people that we talked about, but I don't see why not. You need a culture change. To your point, Vrabel would have been a culture change. I don't know that the NFL guys that would be candidates right now would be. The main candidates are like Cliff Kingsbury, Green Bay Packers defensive coordinator. You talked about a couple of others. I don't know that they would come to this team and change the culture. So I would consider, is there someone in the college ranks or someone that retired, right? If we're going to go really extreme, that would be willing to come to this Browns organization and change the culture. Because we have a cultural problem. There's no doubt about it.
100%. No, I agree with everything you said. And again, you're talking to as a reasonable Browns fan and analyst, like who has observed Browns to an extent. I know what Browns would do. They would not do it because it makes too much sense. They don't like common sense. Common sense is really hard for Browns front office. So I think so. But I agree with you. If we were running Browns or we were the GMs, I would recommend following that suit, fire him after 4 games. Why not give Jim Schwartz, who's having his defense play lights out, a chance? He wants to be a head coach. Give him a shot.
You don't remember when we did that with Greg Williams and then we didn't give him the job?
Exactly. Give him a shot. Maybe Jim Schwartz, who can motivate his defense, even with offense, which is pedestrian like for the most game or most season last year, and still was able to field a good defense on the field. Why can't he motivate everybody else? He knows the players. And then maybe hire a GM from Green Bay, I would recommend, or any good franchise right now, maybe Lions. Dorsey study somebody, bring him back. Not him, but his study, whoever is working the GM there, because they're hitting home runs with every pick, pretty much seems like. And then see what Jim Schwartz can do rest of the season. Give him a shot. If he is, you don't have to look for it. He's experienced. You keep Matt Reese as it is, offensive coordinator, and let them cook.
Yeah, I'd be all for that. I really would. I look at this, and I mean, you look at the Browns down here, 82 yards rushing, right? That's our average. 243 yards passing. That's our average. And then these are our totals. Look at where we are. These teams suck that are down here. Now, you can make a case for the Bengals only sucking because Burrow got hurt and Browning came in and threw pick after pick.
Yeah.
But the rest of these teams, we know they're actually struggling. Pittsburgh is trying to figure it out with Rodgers. Vegas struggled. Geno played awful yesterday. Miami sucked both games. The Giants, they put up a ton of yards through the air. Mm-hmm. They're still losing. This is an objective. We are in the bottom, let's say bottom quarter, to be kind about it, on offense. And then if we look at the way this team was built, and I'll go back to that, the way this team was built. Now that we have 2 games under our belt, and just for a second, let's ignore everyone that's in the second, third, and fourth string spots. And we just walk down this list. I'm wearing a Flack Around and Find Out t-shirt. So I'm not anti. You know that.
Yeah.
Quinshawn, that was the one guy Andrew Berry has drafted in any draft. The single player he's drafted that I actually wanted on this Cleveland Browns team. Then we hit Jeudy, who we've talked about enough. Tillman, who I absolutely dislike. Bond, who
too new.
We just don't know.
Too raw.
And Njoku, who played well last year, had a history of drops before that, but now is competing for targets at his own position, which I assume the plan was Fannin will take over and then they'll release Njoku so they don't have to carry the cap forward. DeJuan Jones.
Let me ask you one thing right there. Why didn't they play 2 tight end set and 1 receiver, or maybe 2 receiver and that's it? Like, make them both available as receivers. Njoku and Fanning,
I thought that's what they were going to do. I thought they were going to run a 12 or a 13, right? Where you would have the 2 tight ends or the 2 tight ends and like a fullback or whatever. But we haven't seen it. What we now realize as fans 2 games into the season is that first round we said we don't need a receiver because we passed up on Travis Hunter and Emeka. Just to be clear, we said we don't need a receiver. Then we drafted a defensive tackle, who I hope turns out great. I have nothing against Mason Graham. But we need impact players. And first rounders should be instant impact.
Yep. NFL ready.
They have to be. Even if they're the bottom of the first round, we're still expecting you to not only start, but make an impact. I think our second rounder, the linebacker, has made more of an impact than he has.
Yep.
And then Quinshawn. So they said, we don't need a receiver. We don't need a receiver. We don't need a receiver. And then when they went to go staff the offense, they picked another tight end. I mean, my bigger question is, why did they feel the need to get another tight end?
When they're not
when they're not going to utilize both, right? Like, what's the plan there? But that's why, I'll say this much. If we go down, again, just the first stringers on defense, not a bad team. I have my concerns about Isaiah, but he's playing well. Baker, he's doing just fine. Bush has even played well, honestly, at times, until we start losing. Then you see the Pittsburgh Bush. Once we start losing, then you start to see that guy that doesn't go all out, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Hickman is undersized, but he's been playing well. Mitchell got smoked, but he came in when Denzel got hurt.
Yeah.
He's not our first ringer. But then what's the plan here? And that's why I wanted to separate the two. Like, what does this look like? So this is the most important position in the NFL. Everyone agrees.
Yeah.
What kind of plan is this? And then if that's the most important position in the NFL, let's not even pick a second position. Let's just say a few, not all, a few of our key players. Let's say Joe Bitonio. I'll take Wyatt Teller, and let's say Denzel, because he's been hurt and he's had a concussion history. Look at these players. Look at these guys that are going to come in.
Yeah, it's scary.
And do we really think having three key non-Myles Garrett, non-Joe Flacco, who else do you want to pick player, like top tier player on our team, do we think that's out of the realm of reality? I don't think so. I think it happens every season. A couple of key players do get hurt. So this is a shit roster.
Mm-hmm.
And we keep having these high hopes in Cleveland for people like Mike Hall Jr. We do. They flash. And then we think like, oh, no, that's all right. We're okay back there. But we're not. Mm. We don't have a team. This is not a team. That's what I said. I don't expect any change now to the way this season will turn out, because everything you said about the coach, Jeudy, our choices on play calls, it's all come true. And simultaneously, the things I was calling out, not having an offensive strategy that really works for this team, not drafting around the strategy. If you're going to pass this much, you better have some damn good receivers.
Yep.
If you're going to give up this many points through either errant interceptions and, as we're learning, through special teams, then you better score a bunch of touchdowns. This team is not built for that. 100%. This team is basically built to hold on for dear life on offense.
Yes.
On offense and ride the defense.
Yep.
That's what we're built for.
And another thing is, like, when you look at Jerome Ford, why it goes back to your point, Barry loving his picks. Why keep him and not Chubb?
Exactly. And after you already messed that up, Sampson and Rocket Sanders actually had a better game than Ford did.
Yes.
So to your point about accountability, how does he get to just stay here? How is David Bell on the roster?
I don't get it.
Like, I don't understand this. Now that we're 2 losses in, I think it's just coming into perspective that this team really is not built correctly. This is not built with this. If you and I go to work, and I haven't spoken about this before on the podcast, but ultimately I work in tech and I work in a leadership role. I don't build a strategy for the year. I don't build objectives, OKRs, KPIs for the year based on whatever comes up during the year. Mm-hmm. I look at what the firm wants to do. I look at the resources I have. I look at the gap between what the firm is trying to achieve and my resources. And then I say, here's my plan. Mm. And my plan may be wrong, but it has to be clear. Mm. It has to be, we're going to staff up this many extra teams. I'm going to have this many more leaders. We're going to work on these particular projects. And that's how we're going to deliver what the firm is asking us for.
Yeah.
Can anybody make sense of how the Browns built this team to say, this was our strategy? We're going to build around Myles Garrett. We're going to build around somebody. I don't know. We're going to build around an offense that's built to throw this much. If that was the case, where are the receivers?
You're 100% right.
If you're going to build around a run game, where are the linemen?
Yep.
because these linemen can't block for the run game and the pass game. That's very obvious. You can tell. They're struggling. And this is actually the best of what we had in the past 2 years, health-wise.
Yeah.
So ultimately, I come back to all this revealed was both need to go. This Browns team is not the team that's going to go to the playoffs. This is not even a wild card.
Mm.
We're going to be here at the end of the year talking about the Browns still, but I can say it right now. We will not be talking about the Browns making the playoffs as a wild card.
Yeah.
We'll be talking about who they're going to draft next year.
No, second that they don't have a clear strategy. Like just a few minutes ago when we talked about you have two tight ends who can catch and run, can get yak, right? Why not use them in your formation? Take a wide receiver out a lot. You don't need it. You don't need Cedric Tillman in there.
Agreed. And that's not a gimmick offense. That's a real NFL offense.
Exactly. Put two running backs, Samson and Judkins, two tight ends, and maybe one or two receivers. That's it. Because Judkins can block and Samson can leak out. You can have a screenplay for that. You can do Judkins straight up, and you have two tight ends who can block or catch or run and be a threat.
And then at least I could say this will be a playoff wild card team. At minimum, at least I could say that. But we're not going to do that. That's not what this is. And what you're talking about, that's not like Chip Kelly running the Wildcat and 79 offensive plays a game. You're talking about, hey, based on the roster you have, what is the strategy? Because I would really put your best players on the field in the formations that you're already running and then see if that makes a difference. And it really would. It is clear to anybody that is not on the Cleveland Browns staff that would make a difference. And I will even go as far as saying this. If you put those guys on the field and then you realize a stationary quarterback like Flacco isn't the right choice, then I'm good with starting Dylan Gabriel. I would prefer Shedeur at the end of the day at this point, but I don't have an issue with it. And on that note, I'll talk about something funny. By chance, the Pivot had Steve Harvey on this week. Steve Harvey's a Cleveland guy. He was raised in Cleveland. He gives all kinds of respect to Cleveland. He's been a Browns fan. He talked about how he was, I think, 8 years old, sitting on the floor, watching the 64 Browns with Jim Brown be the best team in the NFL. And that since then, he has not watched this team, and he has not seen them as a winning team. Mm-hmm. I think about the fact that I'm 43 now. I was probably right around that age, like 7 or 8, sitting there on Sundays watching the game with my dad. Mm-hmm. So I've watched them for the entirety of my, I would say youth, young adulthood, and adulthood. And I haven't seen that change.
Yep.
What was funny to me was that he's like, we know what's going to happen. Flacco will either play extremely poorly and get pulled, or his old ass will get hurt. The Browns don't want to play Shedeur for whatever reason, so they're going to play Dylan. And then Dylan, some guy none of us were talking about before the draft as being a number one starting quarterback on a team, is going to be the starter for the Browns. And as funny as it was, I was also like, he's just telling the truth. That's what's going to happen. We're going to watch that play out. And to your point, at most, we'll see Sean. And that none of that makes sense to me. Like how you're not putting your best players on the field. And just, again, I'm not asking you to be a top 10 offense. I'm saying score points, sustain drives, kick field goals every time if you need to. Shit, I would take 8 field goals in a game at this point.
Yeah, especially with your defense.
Yeah, with that defense, even if you have really, really long drives and every single time you're like, hey, our goal is just to get inside the 40. That's it. That's the goal, guys. Once we get inside the 40, do not take a sack. If that was our strategy, I could even get behind it.
Yeah.
But we don't even do that. They continue to overcomplicate this. They continue to overthink it.
100%.
And we continue to lose, basically.
And that's where strategy comes in point is what are you trying to do, as you said? But the coach is supposed to figure that out. You're considered as a genius. If I can see it, you can see it. A member in the freaking 10th section, upper row, nosebleeds can see it. You are on the field. You have a whole week to prepare. Unless you're trying to set yourself to fail with no clear-cut number 1 pick next year, it makes no sense. You're not a good coach.
I'm okay with them failing and then going for those 2 number 1s we have next year with ours and Jacksonville's. But I'll just make it clear, to your point earlier, then the drafting cannot be done by this staff.
Exactly.
Because all that's going to happen is we're going to waste 2 more number 1 picks.
That's scary. And I personally thought Haslam gave him this year is hey, right the ship. And, you get Flacco, you get whoever QB you want. I don't want to lose. Yeah, last year was an anomaly.
He wrote the checks. He got them Flacco. He paid Miles.
Yep.
He paid Miles at the time the number one defensive player salary in the NFL.
Yeah.
Yes, it's been surpassed pretty quickly by a few other players, but Haslam did his part. That's why I'm taking him out of the equation. I no longer even include him. I know the Browns media does, but the Browns media, especially people like Tony, Grossi, they wouldn't even have a job in another media market.
Yeah.
Just like these receivers wouldn't have a job on another NFL team. People like that, they wouldn't have a job.
Yeah. No.
The politics of it would have kicked his ass out.
Yeah. No, 100%. And I personally think that's what Haslam's are planning on doing, is just give him this year to fix it. If you can't, you're out. And that's why they're trying to throw everything at the wall and let's see something stick. Kenny Pickett, Flacco, Shador, Gabriel, hey, something, give me, silver lining so I can go back to my owner and go like, hey, look what we did, have a future. But if you go 3-14 again, I don't think so Haslam has appetite for that. He's going to say, you know what? There's a door, just walk out because I gave you a chance to fix it season. This is your fix it season. Is the team you built. I gave you extra picks you had. With Deshaun still on the roster, and I gave you a shot. I'm sorry. I think that's what he's trying to do. He's like not be, knee jerk and put Watson. And that's why he's taking a lot of accountability. Same thing as what Stefanski's doing. Oh, it's on me. Watson is on me. It's not on you because you were there when they drafted Baker. It wasn't like after Baker got drafted, you got the team. You were there. You were sold. You saw him going to playoffs. You have Barry, Stefanski, DePosta, whoever they may be. I think there might be some other people. Were in bed with Watson.
Yeah.
And they wanted to take a swing because they thought their window was closing. This is a story. And they told Barry at the end of the year, told Baker, you are the guy, we're going to look option. And then in the media, he said, we're going to explore all options. But when you tell somebody, it's like your boss telling you, yeah, you're the guy, but I'm going to see if I can find somebody on the hiring market and replace you. Obviously, you're going to say, you know what, I'm out. And that's what happened. And then when Baker publicly said, yeah, I'm out because the stories got leaked, because that happens with Browns all the time, that's when they went all in for Watson and gave him a max contract, all guaranteed money. This is a story which makes sense to me. Could be something totally different. I don't know, but it makes sense to me. And I think Barry was the one who went to him, to Haslam, hey, I have this option, because I don't think so Haslam is just going to think of Watson right up.
Nope. And let's be honest, if Haslam has stepped in, and there's pretty much general consensus around Haslam did step in with the Johnny Manziel pick, right? There's consensus there. Hey, that was something he pulled the trigger on. He made his mistake, got it. Baker, that was clearly a Dorsey pick. Yeah. That was obvious, right?
Yeah. He hired Elliott from Green Bay to evaluate him while he was in college to see whether he should draft him or not.
And I think ultimately what I'm getting at is he learned. And even if he, in the 5th round of this year, said, hey, pick Shador, I'm accepting that. If he said you can pick whoever the hell you want in the 1st round, the 2nd round, the 3rd round, they pick Dylan Gabriel, and he goes, okay. And as an owner of the team, then in the 5th round says, hey, pick Shador. That's fine.
I'm okay with
that. I don't know if we'll ever hear that story, that's what happened. But if we did, I'm good with it. Because again, the reason I take the Haslams out of the equation is because even if they made mistakes early on, I really have seen them make every effort, whether it's with the stadium. I may not like the stadium, may not like it moving out of, downtown Cleveland, but they needed to figure it out. That's for sure. They couldn't just let it age out and just deal with that. Whether it's with paying players, like we've seen a massive change in how we pay players. We have been tops in like a using of the salary cap in the NFL since the Haslams have been with us.
Yeah.
He definitely adapted that. He adapted how open he is to them spending in free agency. So in the beginning, it was a lot of trades, if you remember, and drafts, right? But then they learned. They're like, all right, we got to give them some wiggle room on free agency. Now, I'm sure they're a little gun shy because of Deshaun now, but they still paid Miles. And then on top of that, the handling of their part of it, which is like, hey, we're the ones that make the football decisions, so we absolutely take accountability at the end of the day, makes sense. Kevin Stefanski's doesn't make sense anymore. You can't say it's on me as a coach and not do anything behind the scenes, not hold anyone accountable. Because you're able to pull a Belichick and be like, yeah, well, we should have prepped them better. We should have done this, that. When behind the scenes, you're also saying if you don't get your shit figured out, you're going to a different team.
100%.
Because that doesn't work.
Yeah.
So I do see it with Haslam. I do not see it with Stefanski. I'll even go to this next step, which is I would say clean house this year. Like after we lose this game against Green Bay, clean house. I love your idea of an interim coach being Schwartz. Let's see what we have. At least we get to see what he can do.
Yeah.
And if he's reasonable, I will say this. It looks like from the outside, this entire team respects Schwartz. And I don't see him making the same mistakes he made as a head coach the first time. So the way I said, I think Stefanski makes his mistakes in Cleveland and then learns from it and goes somewhere else and does well. Schwartz already did that when he was the Eagles coach.
Yep.
Right? So I think he does decent. And I'll go one step further. If we don't have a clear-cut quarterback in college coming out by the end of the year, don't do it. Take the best players. We know Jeremiah Smith and the kid down in Alabama, Ryan, what's his last name? Those two receivers, we know they're top-tier receivers.
Yeah.
They're going to play well.
Yeah.
All right? Take guys like that.
No, 100%.
And take our 2 picks. Pick the best players. Don't force anything out of the gate. Just turn the culture around. Bring playmakers into the team. Bring only sure-handed receivers. And if you're going to take a risk on a non-sure-handed receiver, he needs to be one of those slot, deep threat receivers that it's okay if every once in a while he drops a ball because he's not getting 19. Our 19-target guy cannot drop 8 balls. So that's what I'll say is like clean house, let Schwartz take it over, run the rest of the season through him. Again, I know it seems knee-jerk, but it's really not. They shouldn't have even had this chance. The fact that they started this season with this shit roster and GM and the head coach still having a job after not changing anything, no strength and conditioning changes, didn't change anything worthwhile on special teams, you got to lose your job for that.
No, for sure. If you talk about business point of view, it's like Fortune 5,000 company CEO blows the budget, causes blunders, that has a case against him, and he still goes next year as a CEO, which is unheard of because usually any small thing happens and you have loss and your profit margin is not there, you're done. And we're running it at business. Again, we're giving chances as like, a feel-good story and I got your back in a way, which makes no sense because at the end of the day...
And in those top-tier firms, those top-tier firms, even when you do well, if you're not doing well enough, you get fired.
Exactly. You have to...
Right? So we have NFL head coaches that actually have good seasons and get fired because their culture is you need to be good enough to get to the playoffs at minimum. Mike Tomlin's on the hot seat. Mike Tomlin, who legitimately has winning season after winning season for over a decade.
Just get him. That'd
be amazing. I would love for the Browns to be his second head coaching gig. That is a culture changer. Yeah. Let me say that. I'll be honest. I know people hate this person now, but I was a big fan of John Gruden even because I hated his strategy because he would collect quarterbacks like Barry does, but I knew his players played their butts off for him. They really did. And to your point, you have the Dan Campbells of the world that are tough, but people respect. You have coaches like Belichick that are tough, people respect. You can also have coaches like a Marvin Lewis or a Mike Tomlin who are tough, but are also players coaches, quite frankly, right? Think about Tomlin's handling of Antonio Brown, right? What a wild character to try to manage. And he had one of the best receiving careers in the history of the NFL.
Yep.
Career, not one season. Under Tomlin, he had one of the best careers in the NFL.
So Mike Tomlin is a player's coach, but he's passionate. He will rip one in you. Yeah. He will go out there, tackle an offensive player just to stop him from going to end zone where like he put his leg out or arm out, whatever he did. But he wants to win.
He did.
On any cost.
Yep.
Sometimes maybe great players like Miles need more space or freedom or to do whatever they want to be because they're different characters. Different characters as a coach, you need to handle differently, right? Like if you're Jerry Rice's or Carter's, you have to give them more leeway, more space because they are stars for a reason. Deion Sanders shows up on your team.
Yep.
He's going to do certain things his way. And as a coach, you're going to like, you know what? You can get away, but not you. But
Micah. Micah's a great example. Jerry Jones didn't want to deal with Micah right now. You got to do what you have to do to get the most out of the player.
Yeah.
And to your point, adapt. You got to adapt a little bit. They talked about Brady even that way. Brady would say things and do things that no other player could get away with, right? Edelman has his podcast. You've heard Gronkowski talk about his stories. Belichick even, he doesn't want to talk about the details, but he has said, like, Brady had my trust is the way he put it. And as a result, he ultimately had more wiggle room to run things his way. And we saw that. We saw that with Peyton Manning and Favre. Yeah. So I just don't see this GM and this coach ever having that type of flexibility with this Browns team.
Yeah.
Because they haven't even shown the basic flexibility. Hey, maybe we just need to put the best players on the field and see what happens flexibility.
And
I think a flag football 8U coach could figure out.
Yeah, I do want to mention a story. I went to Green Bay Packer game back in the day, like 10 years ago or so. We went to the stadium, me, my brother, sister-in-law. So I was just saying, like, talking to these guys, like, they're Packers fans, right? So they were talking, and somebody brought up Favre. He was like, we used to see Favre butt naked on the front lawn, and people would take him in, clothe him, feed him, drop him off at his house, like at 6 a.m. So some players, you got to give more leeway. Even like maybe Baker was of some similar mold. Yeah, you got to discipline at some point, but you got to give leeway because I feel like once you get married, once you have a kid, life changes. Now he has that. The other part of his life has left him where he was a little crazy. Now he's more, receptive of criticism. He thinks before he speaks many times. Yeah, there's passion in him. Even like Troy Aikman was saying, he's, offensive lineman in a quarterback's body. He doesn't care. He will play hard. He will push himself to an extent, which is sometimes his downfall too. But sometimes you got to give leeway to those players. Let them grow. Yeah, they're not going to. But again, unless you're Chris Carter, then you got to cut them in a way and let them, realize their mistakes. And maybe other players NFL has done too. They have gone different places, needed to change the scenery and, developed and evolved into better human being and better players. But maybe it wasn't the case. But I think with Baker, he didn't respected Browns because he was the number one pick. He got them to playoffs. He thought he was it. He was Cleveland Browns. So, and then having these issues with the front office didn't serve him better. But again, yeah, it was poorly handled. And I think that's where maturity would have come in if John Dorsey was there. You would have taken him. You would have respected John Dorsey more than he respects Kevin Stefanski or Andrew Berry because he thinks them as young as their counterpart, right? So I think that is the dynamic which shifted because, again, as you can tell, Berry and Stefanski to some extent are stubborn with their picks, with their play calling, with their handling the team. They're stubborn. So if Baker didn't fit their mold, they had their opinion, you're done. You're stubborn. You're out. You said this to me in a meeting, you're done. Vendettas. But again, I don't know. Those are outside perspectives. I don't know what happened. So I'm just speculating at this point from what I've seen on their personality level, adding two and two together. Yep.